I guess as a Muslim, but also as an academic, when I approach this question of how do we deal with the fractured world that we're living in, I can't but bring both my Muslim identity, my female identity, but also my ethnicity and the fact that I'm an Australian. So I hope everybody would listen to what I have to say in that context. Mm, I think there's no doubt that the world that we live in is a fractured world. In fact, if we were to go back to 1989 and wonder whether the world would go through all these changes, answer would have been no, because it was such a structured system. But since then, the world has become more multipolar and there are different actors coming up. There are states, there are non-state actors, there are ideas, there are people who, using social media, come up with ideas and sometimes not all good ideas. And so it contributes to the negativity, which both the other speakers have talked about in how we need to counter that. And I guess the way I look at it is that if we have to stop that, where do we start? I could give you international politics answers, but I think we need to approach that from a place of deep reflection and commitment to peace that comes from our own separate religious backgrounds. As a Muslim, I've been aware of the fact that Quran says that if you kill a human being, it's as if you've killed the whole humanity. If you save a human being, it's as if you've saved the whole humanity. And so that's a very powerful message for me as a Muslim to say, we have a responsibility to protect others so that we can protect the humanity. But humanity is not just simply people, but also the environment in which we live, and that includes also non-humans. When we talk about a fractured world, not taking care of that environment actually makes it difficult for people who live in this world to live comfortably and peacefully. So I think we need to focus on that dimension as religious beings or as faith beings. And even if we don't believe in a faith, just as human beings who live in here. But there's another bit that I think we need to be focusing on. It is what brings us together. Uh, as you said, I'm in Pakistan. I'm here because my younger brother is very sick, but I was really touched that everyone that I know in Australia, Christian, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, all of them, when they heard, they prayed for him. So that actually makes me think, obviously, there is a space in which understanding and empathy with others creates the space in which we can grow together, creates the space in which we can live peacefully with each other. So my preference is that we don't limit this capacity to only a select group or a few people. There may be a large number in terms of the total world population, but still they're a minority. So how do we go beyond that and create a world that's actually peaceful, that can't ensure that there won't be any fractures, but at least has the capacity to go over that, remove that, and create some form of peace? In that, I think I take guidance from Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who loved children to the extent that he would do whatever he could. He was the prophet, the leader of the Muslims, but he treated kids as his very special being. And I think if I approach the whole issue from that point of view, what I would say is that in the world, but definitely in Australia, where we are increasingly talking about social cohesion, I think we need to think about what are we doing for our children? How can we make sure that it's not just us working as people who work for peace, but also the new generations that come in? And how do we create that space for them? Some research that we have done tells us that Islamophobia, that's been part of the world politics since 2001, has impacted on children. And they see what's being done to their families, and that they internalize that. It's very similar to, and sadly, similar to what the Jewish community has gone through, because I think children, when they talk about what they have gone through, they're telling us that the negative environment impacts on them. Histories of what we see in Gaza or Palestine before, but even in other countries, tells us that children get impacted by conflict. So how do we create a space in which children learn to live in peace? And I think for that, what we require is to understand what is it that they are being exposed to, the kind of information, the kind of ideas they're learning. And they may be positive or negative, but I think we need to understand those ideas, but then not stop at just that simple, superficial understanding, but go beyond that and say, how do we get children to come together, to work with each other, share their ideas, to tell us, we who think that we are the more intelligent ones, they can tell us what is it that they want? How do they want to live peacefully with each other? So I think my main preference is that as we move along, all the faith communities and even those who don't believe in any faith to come together, try and help us gather information on the views of children, their experiences, which are not just simply focused on them, but also their experiences of what happens to their families, and families not just simply in Australia, but elsewhere, and then learn from them as to what are the traumas that they may be going through, or what are the positives that they may be enjoying, and put them in a very significant position as the agents for change, because I think it's in the new generation that we can ensure that the capacity for the people to hear each other, to listen, as Rabbi Raf said, with intention, to see the positivity, the cloak of fire, as you talked about, Gary, but all those other ideas that would come, I think we need to be able to give the children the agency to create a better world. So I would say the work that we need to start today is acknowledge where we may have missed out and create the space for that positive change. Thank you.